Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Picture this for a second. A group of friends head out to an isolated cabin deep in the woods for what's supposed to be a relaxing getaway. But tucked away inside that cabin, they stumble onto a strange, ancient book. And the moment someone makes the mistake of opening it, they end up unleashing a demonic force that's been sealed away for centuries. One by one, their friends start getting possessed by this thing. And slowly, horrifyingly, it becomes clear that getting out of that cabin alive might not even be an option anymore. But here's the real question everyone wants answered. What exactly was written in that book that kicked off this entire nightmare? And did any of these friends actually make it out alive? Let's get into the full story of Evil Dead 2013 and break down the real meaning hiding behind that bone-chilling ending. So the movie kicks off with a scene that's genuinely unsettling right out of the gate. We see a girl sprinting through a thick, dense forest, and she's clearly in bad shape. Her hand is injured, blood's running down it, and the fear on her face is unmistakable. It looks like something or someone is hunting her down and she's running for her life. Out of nowhere, a man appears in the distance, just standing there. She ducks behind a tree to hide, but it doesn't matter, because a second later someone grabs her face from behind, and another man comes out of nowhere and shoves her hard to the ground. And right here, in these first few seconds, the movie's already telling us something. Whatever's going on, there's a much bigger, much darker secret behind it. The scene cuts, and now we're in the basement of an old cabin, where that same girl is tied tightly to a wooden post. A man pulls a black cloth off her face, and that's when we realize this is the same girl who was just running through the woods. But here's the gut punch. The man standing in front of her isn't some stranger. It's her own father. There are a few other people in that basement too, including a strange woman who's in the middle of some kind of dark ritual, with dead cats hanging upside down around her. While all this is happening, the girl opens up a bizarre old book, and the pages are covered in words written in blood, surrounded by twisted demonic drawings. The camera lingers on this book a little longer than it needs to, and that's not by accident. This is the movie quietly telling the audience that everything horrific that's about to unfold traces back to this exact book. The girl looks up at her father, almost childlike, and asks, "Dad, where's Mom?" Her father, clearly breaking inside, answers, "Your mother's dead, and you're the one who killed her." She starts crying, begging him, "Dad, don't say that. Please, just take me home." But before he can respond, the woman performing the ritual cuts in, ice cold, and says there's only one way left to save her now. She has to be burned alive. According to her, that's the only way to destroy the evil that's already taken hold inside the girl. So, with absolutely no choice left, the father pours gasoline over his own daughter's head. She's sobbing, pleading with him not to go through with it. But the second he strikes that match and the flames start to rise in front of her, everything shifts. That terrified, helpless girl from a moment ago is gone. Her face twists into something unrecognizable, and her voice doesn't sound human anymore. And that's when it hits the audience, that's not her talking anymore. That's the demon that's already taken over her body. In a voice that doesn't belong to any human being, she turns to her father and says, "Just like I killed my mother, I'm going to kill you too." And this is the exact moment the movie makes something very clear right off the bat. This isn't mental illness. This isn't some kind of delusion. There's a genuinely evil force in this world, one that uses human bodies as weapons and turns them against the people they love most. That's why the father finally understands what he's looking at. The thing standing in front of him isn't his daughter anymore. It's whatever monster has taken over her. She keeps screaming, taunting him, pushing him to do it. And finally, with hands shaking, the father raises his shotgun and ends it with a single shot to the head. And with that brutal opening, the movie's already telling us exactly what kind of story this is going to be. Love, family, mercy. None of that is going to matter much against a force that can turn anyone into its next victim. The scene shifts, and now we're watching a car making its way down an empty road, heading deeper into the woods. It crosses a small river along the way, and eventually pulls up to an old, run-down cabin. And if you were paying attention to that opening scene, you'll recognize it. This is the exact same cabin where that horrifying ritual just happened. The movie doesn't spell it out yet, but the audience already knows something deeply wrong took place here. And that knowledge is exactly what makes everything from this point on feel so much more unsettling. First out of the car are David and his girlfriend Natalie. Waiting for them are their friends Eric and his girlfriend Olivia. The four of them greet each other warmly, like this is just another normal weekend getaway. But the audience knows better, and that gap between what the characters think and what we already know is exactly where the tension comes from. Then the camera drifts over to a beat-up old car parked nearby, where a girl is sitting on top of it, completely focused on sketching the cabin. This is David's sister, Mia, and she's the one this whole story really centers around. The moment David walks up to her, there's no warmth on her face, just frustration. She looks at him and asks why. During their mother's final days in the mental hospital, he never once showed up to visit. So why now? Why show up here, today, out of nowhere? It's a short exchange, but it says everything about where these two siblings stand. There's love there, sure, but there's also old resentment that's never really been dealt with. And that emotional weight is going to end up shaping a lot of the decisions made later in the story. David's dog, Grandpa, is there with him too, and the second Mia spots him, we get the first real smile out of her. It's a small detail, but it tells us something important. She might be distant with people, but with that dog, there's real affection, and the movie's going to come back to that bond later, when it really needs to hit you emotionally. David climbs into the car next to Mia and hands her a locket. It's not just a gift. It's a small, quiet attempt to start repairing whatever's broken between them. Now the movie finally gives us the real reason everyone's gathered at this isolated cabin. Mia's been battling drug addiction for a long time. She's tried to get clean before, more than once, and every single time, it's fallen apart. So this time, her friends and her brother have brought her out here, miles from the city, away from every temptation, so they can keep an eye on her and help her kick the habit for good. The scene shifts, and we see everyone standing around an old well. One by one, Mia tosses every last bit of her drugs into it. In front of everyone, she promises this is it. She's never touching the stuff again. On the surface, this scene feels pretty straightforward, but it's actually setting up something crucial. Because later, when Mia starts acting strange, seeing things that shouldn't be there, and spiraling mentally, her friends are going to chalk it all up to withdrawal. And that one wrong assumption is exactly what the demon is going to exploit. After that, David heads over to open up the cabin door. But the moment he grabs the handle, he realizes the lock's already broken. He's a little thrown by it, but he doesn't think much more about it and moves on. The audience, though, knows this is anything but a small detail, because other people have been in this cabin before them, and something truly horrific went down here. None of them have the faintest idea that in the process of cleaning, they're about to disturb something that should have been left alone forever. Meanwhile, Mia wanders off into a room by herself, where she comes across a stack of old childhood photos. They show her, David, and their mother together. The second she sees her mom's face, her eyes well up, and she gets pulled into this wave of grief. She turns to David and tells him that during their mother's worst days, when things got truly unbearable, she was the one who was there. She watched every bit of her mother's suffering, carried every bit of that pain alone, while her brother was nowhere to be found. This conversation is what really gives Mia's character some depth. The movie's making it pretty clear here. Her addiction was never just a bad habit. It was grief over losing her mom, isolation, and an emotional breakdown that slowly pulled her under. So Mia isn't just a girl struggling with drugs. She's someone carrying real, deep emotional wounds. And that's exactly why, later on, when supernatural things start happening to her, nobody around her is willing to take her seriously. As evening starts to settle in, David's outside fixing the broken lock on the cabin door. Olivia walks up to him and quietly admits she doesn't think this attempt is going to work out any better than the last ones. According to her, Mia's made this same promise to quit before, plenty of times, and every single time, she's relapsed within days. Then Olivia drops something on David that makes it painfully obvious just how disconnected he's been from his sister's life. She tells him about a time Mia overdosed so badly her breathing actually stopped. Doctors had to shock her heart just to bring her back. And the most telling part? David had absolutely no idea this had even happened. This isn't just a piece of backstory, it's revealing exactly who David is as a person. The movie's showing us that he's basically been absent from his sister's life for years, while Olivia and Eric were the ones actually there for her during her worst moments. That's exactly why Mia's still holding on to resentment toward her brother, and why she's not exactly rushing to trust him again. This is also where the movie properly introduces Olivia and Eric. Olivia's a nurse by profession, so she naturally approaches Mia's condition from a medical standpoint. Eric, on the other hand, is a teacher, and his one real flaw is that he's way too curious for his own good. And that curiosity is about to change all of their lives. Night falls, and suddenly the cabin's filled with the sound of Mia screaming. David bolts toward her room in a panic. When he gets there, he finds Olivia already struggling to hold Mia down and calm her. Mia keeps repeating the same thing over and over. There's a horrible smell coming from somewhere. It's disgusting. It's awful. She won't stop screaming it, but here's the strange part. Nobody else in that room can smell anything at all. So naturally, everyone assumes this is just withdrawal messing with her, both mentally and physically. Olivia finally gives her a sedative to knock her out. Once Mia's asleep, she turns to David again and tells him this might just be another one of Mia's tricks, that her body's craving the drug so badly it's making her act out like this. And this is exactly where the movie starts playing with the audience too. And it's clever about it. Because at this point, there's genuinely no way to tell if Mia's picking up on something real and supernatural, or if she's just hallucinating from withdrawal. That uncertainty is what's going to drive the tension way up as the story moves forward. With Mia finally asleep, everyone sits around for a bit. That's when David's dog, Grandpa, starts sniffing around and pulling at the carpet on the floor. Underneath it, there's a hidden wooden trapdoor. David pulls it open, and they all head down the stairs into the basement. The second they reach the bottom, a rotten, sickening smell hits them immediately. And if you remember that opening scene, this is the exact same basement where that girl was tied up at the start of the movie. Hanging all around them are dead cats and other animal carcasses, all strung up upside down, and the smell is so bad it's almost impossible to stand there for long. And that's when it hits everyone. The smell Mia was screaming about earlier wasn't in her head at all. She'd actually been picking up on this exact stench before any of them had even found this room. This is the movie's first real, undeniable clue that Mia was sensing this evil presence before anyone else even had a chance to. Down in the basement, Eric's attention gets pulled toward a strange book sitting on a table. It's been wrapped tightly in barbed wire, like someone went out of their way to make sure it stayed sealed shut forever. There are warnings written all over it too, and they're not subtle. They all say the exact same thing. Do not open this book, under any circumstances. And this is where the movie shows us something really telling about who Eric is. Most people would see a warning like that and back away immediately. But Eric's curiosity wins out over every red flag in front of him. He's convinced there's some kind of secret in there worth uncovering. So he tears off the barbed wire, opens the book, and without even realizing what he's just done, he throws open the door to a force that took an enormous amount of effort to lock away in the first place, years ago. This is really where the true horror of the movie kicks into gear. Everything we've seen up to this point was just the setup. The real terror is about to wake up inside this cabin. Meanwhile, Mia, restless and on edge, slips out of the cabin alone. Outside, it's pouring rain, and the forest around her is completely swallowed in darkness. At first, it looks like she's just stepped out because she's anxious and overwhelmed. But really, something unseen is pulling her outside. This is where the movie starts quietly revealing that Mia is going to be the very first one to fall under this demon's influence. Back in the basement, Eric opens up that mysterious book. The first page he flips to has a warning written across it in plain terms. Never open this book. And if you remember that opening scene, this is the exact same book that mysterious woman was using for her black magic ritual. So this isn't some random old book Eric stumbled onto. It's something that was already known to be dangerous, long before he ever got his hands on it. But Eric brushes the warnings off, treating them like nothing more than superstition. He keeps flipping through page after page, and every single one is covered in horrifying demonic illustrations, depicting monsters possessing human bodies and describing terrifying rituals. Then he comes across another warning, this one written in blood. It's blunt and direct. Don't read this book out loud, don't write anything in it, and whatever you do, never speak the words written inside it. The movie keeps hammering home these warnings again and again, and it's doing that on purpose. It wants to make one thing crystal clear. What's about to happen isn't really the demon's fault. It's Eric's curiosity that's responsible for unleashing it. That's actually a pattern you see in a lot of horror movies. The monster doesn't wake up by accident. It's human stubbornness and ego that sets it free. But Eric still doesn't stop. As he flips to another page, the edge of the paper slices his finger open. A single drop of blood falls right onto the page. It seems like such a tiny throwaway moment, but the movie's using it as a symbol. It's like a blood bond just got formed between Eric and this book, sealing him to whatever's inside it. Then his eyes land on a section of words pressed deep into the page, almost embossed, with a clear warning right next to them, telling him never to trace those letters. But once again, Eric's curiosity wins. He runs his finger slowly along those raised letters, tracing every single one. And as his finger moves across those words, somewhere out there, a demonic incantation starts completing itself. The movie doesn't show much here. It lets the mood, the sound design, and the editing do all the talking, making it clear that something ancient and dangerous is waking up. Eventually, Eric finishes reading every single word, and in that exact instant, the demonic force that had been locked away for all those years is completely, fully unleashed. The camera cuts out to the forest. Something invisible, something monstrous, comes tearing through the woods straight toward the cabin. You can't actually see it, but the wind, the trees, the whole atmosphere shifts instantly. The movie's smart about this. It never shows us the demon directly. It just lets us feel its presence, and somehow that makes it even scarier. And since Mia happens to be standing outside the cabin alone at that exact moment, she becomes its very first target. Out of nowhere, she starts violently throwing up and collapses to the ground. A second later, lightning rips across the sky. She looks around in a panic, The trees start swaying in this unnatural way, and terrifying sounds start coming from every direction, like the entire forest just woke up and came alive around her. Terrified, Mia doesn't waste a second. She sprints back inside the cabin. Once inside, she's gasping for air, shaking uncontrollably. Olivia rushes over and asks what's wrong. Mia, completely panicked, tells her she saw something horrifying out in the woods, and that she's not staying here, not even for one more second. That's when David, Eric, and everyone else come running in too. But here's where they make their biggest mistake. Instead of taking Mia seriously, they all assume this is just another withdrawal-induced hallucination, and that one wrong assumption is going to make every single threat from here on out so much worse. Because right when Mia's telling the truth, the people closest to her refuse to believe a word of it. But at this point, Mia's done listening to anyone. Panicked, she storms straight out of the cabin, jumps in her car, and speeds off without thinking twice. It's obvious just by looking at her, all she wants is to get as far away from this place as possible. But as she drives down the forest road, that same demonic presence suddenly appears right in front of her. Mia panics, loses control of the car, and crashes hard. After the brutal impact, she's knocked unconscious. When Mia finally comes to, she manages to drag herself out of the wrecked car. With nowhere else to go, she starts running back toward the cabin. But she doesn't get far before that same demonic presence appears in front of her again. Up until now, Mia had only sensed it. This time, what she sees is so much worse. Standing right in front of her is a figure that looks exactly like her. The demon has taken on her own appearance. And this isn't just a scare tactic. In horror stories, these kinds of forces often go straight for a person's deepest fears and their sense of self. Here, Mia isn't facing some outside monster. She's facing a twisted version of herself. And that's exactly what starts breaking her down mentally. Faster than anything else could. Terrified, she stumbles backward and falls into the trees as she tries to run. Suddenly, the branches around her start moving on their own, and within seconds, they wrap around her arms and legs like living snakes. She fights to break free with everything she's got, but the harder she struggles, the tighter they hold on. That's when her own demonic double steps directly in front of her again. Mia's frozen with terror, staring straight at her own face. Then black, thick liquid starts pouring out of the creature's mouth, and it begins forcing its way into Mia's body. This is the exact moment the demon fully takes over. This is when Mia's possession actually happens. But here's the truly terrifying part. There's not a single witness to any of this. The audience knows Mia is completely possessed now, but her friends still think she's just acting strange because of withdrawal. And that gap, between what we know and what they believe, is what's about to make everything that follows almost unbearably tense. Meanwhile, David, Olivia, Eric, and the rest of the group are out searching for Mia in the pouring rain. After a while, David spots her. She's sitting calmly against a tree. Just minutes ago, this same girl was running for her life in absolute terror, and now there's this strange, unsettling calm on her face. At first glance, that might look like relief, but in horror movies, sudden stillness like that is usually the biggest warning sign of all. Because sometimes a person isn't calm at all, it's something else entirely that's taken full control. David helps her up and brings her back inside the cabin, laying her down in her room. Outside, Olivia's still trying to convince everyone that Mia's condition is just withdrawal. As far as she's concerned, Mia's body is craving the drugs, and that's what's causing the hallucinations and the strange behavior. Meanwhile, David goes into Mia's room alone and gently asks her what actually happened to her out there. Mia walks him through everything that happened out there in the woods. She tells him about the terrifying things she saw, how the trees grabbed her, how something was just deeply wrong out there. But David doesn't take any of it seriously either. He chalks it all up to her mind playing tricks on her. He tells her to rest and walks out of the room. Meanwhile, Eric's sitting alone with that mysterious book again. This time, he actually starts reading it properly, and that's when the color drains from his face. The book describes, word for word, the exact same events Mia had just been describing to everyone. It's all there in writing. First, the victim sees an invisible demonic presence. Then the trees in the forest grab hold of them. And after that, the demon takes full possession of their body. For the first time, it hits Eric. Mia wasn't lying. Everything she said is written right there in that book, like it already happened before. This is the moment Eric truly understands what he's done. He didn't just open some old book. He unleashed something evil, and that evil is now starting to spread through everyone in this cabin, one by one. The next morning, David steps outside to take out the trash. That's when he notices fresh blood spread across the ground. At first he can't tell where it's coming from, but as he gets closer, he stops dead in his tracks. His dog, Grandpa, is lying there, dead. His skull's been smashed in with several blows from a hammer, and that same blood-soaked hammer is lying right next to him. This moment completely shatters David. Up until now, he'd been defending his sister, but now he can't help but think Mia's the one who did this. There's nobody else in that cabin capable of something this violent, and this is exactly where suspicion and rage start building inside David. The movie wants the audience thinking the same thing for a moment, that maybe Mia's just lost her mind completely, but the truth is so much worse than that. Furious, he marches straight toward Mia's room. He hears water running inside. He calls out her name several times but gets nothing back. Finally, he kicks the door open and storms in. What he sees stops him cold. Mia isn't bathing in regular water. She's sitting in water that's literally boiling. Steam's filling up the entire bathroom and her skin is burning badly, but there's absolutely no pain on her face. And that right there is the scariest part of all. No normal human being could sit in water that hot for even a second. But when something demonic has taken full control of a body, pain basically stops registering. With this one scene, the movie's showing us something chilling. The actual human being that used to be Mia is disappearing more and more by the second. David immediately pulls her out of the tub. Meanwhile, Eric, completely shaken, rushes back down to the basement to that book again. This time, he's studying every symbol and every line in it carefully. And then he spots another horrifying parallel. The book states clearly that once this evil force fully takes control of a person, they'll be able to sit in boiling water without feeling a thing. At this point, Eric's basically certain now. Everything written in that book is coming true, one detail at a time. Meanwhile, David's made up his mind. He needs to get Mia away from this place immediately. He gets her into the car and starts driving toward town. But the second they reach the road leading out of the forest, any hope of escape disappears. The storms washed out the bridge and flooded the road completely. There's no way out of these woods anymore. Which means, without even realizing it, everyone here is now completely trapped. In the one place escape is basically impossible. This is the turning point where the story shifts into full survival horror, because running away just stopped being an option. While they're stuck there, David glances over at Mia. White foam is dripping from her mouth. Slowly, she turns her head toward David, and a horrifying, unnatural smile spreads across her face. In that instant, it's painfully clear. The sister David knew is gone. Even so, David still can't bring himself to fully accept the truth. Left with no other choice, he drives her back to the cabin. Inside, everyone's gathered, trying to make sense of what's actually happening to Mia. That's when Mia suddenly walks into the room, except this time, she's holding a shotgun. Before anyone can react, she fires it straight at David. By sheer luck, the shot doesn't hit him directly, it just grazes his shoulder. Right after that, her voice completely transforms. It doesn't sound human anymore, it's something demonic now, and in that voice, she says, "Tonight, all of you are going to die." Everyone in that room feels a chill go straight through them. The moment those words leave her mouth, she suddenly collapses to the floor, unconscious. Olivia carefully steps forward, trying to get the shotgun out of her hands. But the instant she gets close, Mia grabs her wrist with terrifying speed, and in the very next second, she vomits a violent stream of blood directly into Olivia's face. This isn't just a shock scare. This is the exact moment the movie shows the infection actually jumping from one person to the next for the first time. And it's doing it subtly, but the message is clear. The danger isn't contained to Mia anymore. Olivia, horrified, shoves her away hard. Mia goes flying back and hits the ground. Eric, meanwhile, bolts over and slams the basement door shut, like he still believes locking a door is enough to stop something like this. What he doesn't realize is that the real evil isn't trapped in that book anymore. It's already inside people now. Covered in blood, Olivia heads to the bathroom to clean herself up. The moment she looks in the mirror, for just a split second, she sees her own reflection completely demonic. Black eyes, a twisted, distorted face, and a smile that shouldn't exist on a human face. It vanishes almost instantly, but Olivia's already terrified out of her mind. And this is another major signal from the movie. After Mia, the demon's already chosen its next victim. Nobody realizes it yet, but one by one, everyone in this cabin is being pulled toward the same darkness. Outside, David, Eric, and Natalie are sitting around, waiting for Olivia. A good amount of time passes, and she still hasn't come out. At first, they figure she's just taking a moment to pull herself together, but once it's been way too long, Eric starts getting worried and heads toward the bathroom. He slowly pushes the door open, and what he sees inside completely floors him. Olivia is brutally cutting into her own face with a broken shard of mirror glass. There's zero pain on her face, like her body doesn't even belong to her anymore, like someone else is fully driving now. This is the movie confirming it outright. After Mia, the demon's second victim has now been completely taken over too. Eric stumbles backward in shock and tries to run. But the floor's slick with blood, and his foot slips out from under him. He crashes straight down onto the toilet, which shatters underneath him, and he ends up badly injured. Before Eric can even process what just happened, Olivia grabs a large shard of the broken mirror and drives it straight into his chest with everything she's got. Eric screams out in agony, but fighting for his life, he grabs a heavy chunk of the broken toilet and slams it into Olivia's head with everything he has. The blow connects hard, and Olivia drops instantly. She's dead. Just seconds later, David and Natalie come running in. What they find in front of them is their friend's lifeless body and Eric lying there badly wounded, soaked in his own blood. Up until now, they'd been telling themselves this was all just drugs or some kind of breakdown. But what's happening now is way too extreme for any normal explanation to hold up. One thing worth pointing out here, this movie's biggest strength is honestly the acting. Every actor sells the fear, the pain, the panic so convincingly that almost every scene feels real. And that's exactly why the audience stays emotionally locked in. Every single attack lands harder than the last. David quickly pulls the glass shard out of Eric's chest and wraps the wound the best he can. He knows that if the bleeding doesn't stop, Eric isn't going to make it much longer. Meanwhile, Natalie heads into the kitchen to grab something. That's when she hears Mia's voice coming from down in the basement. But it's not that demonic, twisted voice she heard before. This time, Mia sounds gentle, sweet, almost loving, calling out to her. And this is exactly what makes this entity so dangerous. It doesn't just terrify people, it earns their trust and uses that trust to lure them in. Natalie starts thinking maybe Mia's actually okay now. She slowly makes her way down into the basement. But the moment she gets to the bottom, Mia lunges at her without warning. She bites down hard on Natalie's arm with everything she's got. Screaming in pain, Natalie tries to pull away and run. But Mia grabs her by the legs and starts dragging her back down into the basement. It's like she's trying to pull Natalie down into that same darkness with her. That's when David comes running in. He fights with everything he's got to tear Natalie free from Mia's grip and pulls her back up. Right after, he slams the basement door shut and locks it down with heavy chains. But by this point, the real danger was never actually contained down there. This evil had already spread to multiple people by then. Meanwhile, Eric, holding on to one last shred of hope, sits back down with that cursed book. His thinking is, if the book is what woke this evil up, maybe it also holds the way to stop it. First, he tries burning it. But shockingly, the book just won't catch fire. That's yet another sign that this isn't some ordinary object. It's tied to something supernatural, something that can't be destroyed through normal means. Left with no other option, Eric forces himself to keep reading. By now, he fully understands the catastrophic mistake he made, but it's far too late to undo it. Still, deep in the final pages of the book, he finds something crucial. It states there are only 3 ways to free someone who's been fully possessed by this demonic force. Either burn them alive, or bury them alive, or cut their body into pieces. According to the book, doing this would destroy the demonic force completely, while also freeing the person's soul trapped inside. And this is where the story really hits its hardest turning point. Because now David's facing the worst possible question. Can he actually bring himself to do something this brutal to his own sister in order to save her? Or will his love for her end up putting everyone, maybe the whole world, in even greater danger? Meanwhile, Natalie tries to wash off her injured arm. But the moment she actually looks closely at the wound, the color drains from her face. The spot where Mia bit her is spreading fast. A black vein-like infection is creeping steadily up her entire arm. Natalie immediately understands, if she doesn't do something right now, this is going to consume her whole body. And that's when she makes one of the most brutal, courageous decisions in the entire movie. She grabs an electric saw lying nearby and, without hesitating for even a second, cuts off her own infected arm. This scene isn't just about physical pain, it's showing just how far a person's willing to go to survive. Right after, Natalie's gaze drifts toward the basement. She sees Mia standing there, door wide open, watching her. And the strangest part, Mia actually looks like she's trying to stop her from doing it. But that raises a much bigger question. That basement door was chained shut with heavy locks, so how did it open on its own? This is the movie quietly telling us something important. This evil isn't bound by doors or chains anymore. When evil turns truly supernatural, no human lock is going to hold it back. Right at that moment, the power goes out across the entire cabin. In the darkness, David and Eric grab flashlights and rush over to Natalie. The second the light hits her, both of them freeze in horror. Natalie's entire arm is gone, and blood is everywhere. In the dead silence that follows, Mia's horrifying laughter echoes up from the basement. It sounds like she's actually enjoying every second of this suffering. At first, the audience might think cutting off the infected arm actually saved Natalie. But the movie wastes no time crushing that hope. Meanwhile, Eric sits back down with the book one more time. This time, he uncovers something even more critical. According to the book, this demon's ultimate goal was never just to possess one person. To complete its ritual fully, it needs to claim 5 lives. And once all 5 of those sacrifices are made, blood will rain down from the sky, and something far more catastrophic will begin. And this is where the movie slowly starts laying out exactly what rules this evil is playing by. So up to this point, we've tracked exactly how this thing spreads. The black liquid entered Mia's body. Mia vomited blood onto Olivia, and Mia's the one who bit Natalie. In other words, this evil doesn't spread through the air. It needs some kind of physical contact, a piece of itself passed from one body into the next. And that's exactly why everyone who comes into contact with Mia ends up falling into that same darkness, one after another. Meanwhile, David and Eric are in the middle of figuring out their next move when Natalie suddenly appears in front of them again. But this isn't the Natalie from before. Her eyes, her face, her whole demeanor completely transformed. She's holding a nail gun. Without a second of warning, she opens fire on both of them. Nails come flying at them at brutal speed. David barely manages to dodge out of the way. But Eric isn't so lucky. He takes several nails and goes down hard. That's when David finally accepts it. There's no saving the person standing in front of him anymore. He grabs the shotgun lying nearby, and with no other choice left, he pulls the trigger on Natalie. She drops instantly. Dead. That's 3 of their friends gone now, all claimed by this thing. Meanwhile, Eric's condition keeps getting worse by the second. David hauls him outside, doing whatever he can to keep him moving. And that's when it really sinks in. If he doesn't make a drastic call right now, nobody in this cabin is walking out alive. So he makes the brutal decision. He starts dousing the entire cabin in gasoline. The rooms, the walls, the floor. He even pours it straight onto the basement door. His intention couldn't be clearer. He's going to burn the whole place down and end this nightmare for good. But just as he's about to flick on the lighter, a horribly familiar sound drifts up from below. It's Mia, softly singing the same lullaby, the one their mother used to sing to them when they were kids. And this is the moment the movie shows exactly how dangerous this demon really is. It's not just trying to scare people anymore. It's using a person's most cherished memories to break down their resolve. Right in front of David, those childhood memories come flooding back. He's completely overwhelmed with emotion. At that exact moment, a downed power line falls into the forest outside and sets a tree on fire. David doesn't see this as some random accident. He starts thinking maybe this is a sign, like the universe is pointing him toward a different way out. And that's when he remembers the second method written in the book. If a possessed person is buried alive, their soul can still be saved, and the demon inside them can be destroyed. That thought changes everything for him. He drops the idea of burning the cabin down entirely. His new plan is to bury his own sister alive, so he can save her soul without actually having to kill her for good. This is genuinely the most emotional turning point in the whole story. David's not just fighting a demon anymore. He's stuck choosing between being the brother Mia needs, and doing what it takes to save everyone else too. With that decision made, David springs into action. He recalls another detail from the book, that if a possessed person is killed and then brought back to life, their soul might survive the process. To pull this off, he heads into another room and rigs up a makeshift electric shock device from whatever supplies he can find. He also fills a syringe with medication just in case he needs it. After that, he heads outside and starts digging a deep grave as fast as he can. The whole time he's digging, it's written all over his face. He doesn't want to lose his sister, but this feels like the only option left to save her. Once everything's ready, he grabs a flashlight and heads back down into the basement. But the second he gets down there, he freezes. Mia's nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, the whole basement fills with the sound of loud crashing and rushing water. David follows the noise and pushes open the door to another room. Inside, the entire room is flooded with water. He moves forward carefully, searching for Mia. But out of nowhere, Mia attacks him from behind. She forces his head down underwater with everything she's got. The harder David fights to break free, the harder she pushes him down. It looks like this might actually be the end for him. But right at that moment, Eric shows up. Even though he's badly hurt himself, he still throws himself at Mia to save his friend. The hit knocks her out for a few seconds, and she crumples to the ground. David seizes the opportunity and injects her with the sedative, just enough to keep her under control for a little while. Then he turns toward Eric, and what he sees drains every bit of color from his face. Eric's eyes have changed. His whole demeanor's off now too. David realizes it instantly. Eric's been taken over by the same demonic force. And this is genuinely the saddest part of this entire story. The same curiosity that unleashed this evil in the first place has now turned its own creator into its next victim. David's out of options now. With a heavy heart, he forces Eric's head underwater and holds him there. Within moments, Eric stops breathing for good. This decision absolutely guts David, because now he's lost yet another friend right in front of his own eyes. For a few seconds, he just stands there, staring at Eric and Mia lying in the water, frozen. Fear, grief, and complete helplessness, all of it written across his face. The scene shifts. Now David starts preparing to carry out the second method from the book. He puts a plastic bag over Mia's face and wraps her body in a red cloth. Then he carries her outside to the grave he already dug. And he starts shoveling dirt on top of her. As the dirt piles up, Mia starts screaming at the top of her lungs. She begs David to pull her out, to not do this to her. But David forces himself to stay strong and keep going. Then, suddenly, her voice changes completely. Now she's speaking in that same innocent voice from before. She brings up memories from their childhood, calls him her brother, and pleads with him to dig her back out. This is the demon's cruelest trick of all. It knows David can't be beaten with strength alone, only through his love and his emotions. But this time, David doesn't fall for any of it. With tears streaming down his face, he keeps shoveling dirt until the grave is finally completely filled in. Once it's all over, David collapses on top of that grave, completely shattered. After a moment, his eyes drift toward the tree that had caught fire earlier. The fire's burned out completely now. Seeing that, he realizes it's time to move on to the second part of his plan. He immediately starts digging the grave back open and pulls Mia's body out. Now he tries to bring her back using that makeshift shock device he rigged up earlier. But once again, luck just isn't on his side. The device's battery dies right then. David's completely broken at this point. He pulls the plastic bag off Mia's face, and that's when something strange happens. Her face looks completely normal now. No trace of fear, no trace of that demonic presence. Like the evil inside her is actually, genuinely gone. But she's not breathing. Devastated, David lays the cloth back over her face. He's convinced he's just lost his sister for good. With heavy, defeated steps, he starts walking away. But then, someone calls out his name from behind him. David turns around, and there's Mia, standing there, completely fine. No demonic smile on her face. No trace of that terrifying darkness in her eyes anymore. David's plan actually worked. He'd freed his sister from the demon's grip through death itself, and then brought her back to life on the other side of it. Seeing this, tears of pure joy fill David's eyes. He runs to her and pulls her into a tight hug. After hours of death, terror, and helplessness, this is the first moment where both siblings finally feel like maybe, just maybe, the nightmare's actually over. But the movie isn't done yet. Its most horrifying chapter is still coming. For a brief moment, David and Mia let themselves believe it's finally over. Mia's back to normal, and maybe, just maybe, they can finally get out of this nightmare of a place. But then David remembers the car keys are still inside the cabin. He tells Mia to wait outside and heads back in, one last time. Once inside, he grabs the keys. As he turns to leave, his eyes land on an old group photo of his friends hanging on the wall. He just stands there for a moment, staring at it. Everyone in that photo is smiling. None of them had any idea that within just a few hours, almost every single person in that frame would fall victim to this evil. It's such a small moment, but it lands hard, reminding us of the saddest truth in this whole story. This trip started with a group of friends, and now almost every one of those relationships has been wiped out. David's just about to take the photo off the wall when Eric suddenly attacks him from behind. Turns out, Eric had been fully possessed all along, and the demon was using him as its final weapon. During the struggle, David ends up coming into contact with him too. In that instant, he realizes exactly what's coming for him next. But here's where the movie does something smart. The possession doesn't happen instantly. Once the infection enters someone's body, they stay normal for a little while before the demon slowly takes over their body and mind completely. Which means David's got a few precious minutes left before it's too late. He sprints outside and tells Mia to get away from here, right now. He knows that if he stays near her even a little longer, she's going to be the one he turns on next. For a brother, there's almost no pain worse than this. He's pushing his own sister away, for the last time, just to keep her safe. Then he forces Mia out of the cabin and goes back inside himself, locking the door behind him. Meanwhile, Eric's slowly closing in on him. David knows there's no way out of this anymore. He grabs the shotgun sitting nearby and fires straight at the gas can sitting in the room. In an instant, the entire cabin erupts into flames. David, Eric, and everything else inside burns in that fire. This was David's final sacrifice. He knew that if he made it out alive, the demon would eventually find its way to Mia through him. So instead, he gave up his own life to stop this evil from ever spreading any further. Outside, Mia stands there watching her brother burn alive inside that cabin. There's nothing she can do. The very last family she had left is gone now, forever, right in front of her eyes. Through her tears, her eyes land on something lying on the ground, that same locket David had given her earlier. With shaking hands, she picks it up. It's all she has left of her brother now. But then, a warm drop lands on her palm. She looks up, confused. And the next second, the entire sky turns blood red. It starts raining blood. Within seconds, Mia's face and body are completely drenched in it. This is the exact moment that demonic book had warned about. all along. According to the book, once the necessary sacrifices were completed, blood would rain down from the sky, and the final, true form of this demon would fully enter our world. So everything David sacrificed, everyone who died, Mia surviving, none of it actually stopped the real danger. If anything, it just cleared the way for its most terrifying form to finally arrive. But the story's still not over. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking violently. A second later, it splits open completely, and out of it rises that final demonic entity, the one this entire movie's been building toward. This time, it's not possessing anyone's body. This time, Mia's facing it in its true raw form. Which means everything that's happened up until now was just the lead up to this thing's arrival. The second she sees it, Mia runs for her life. She scrambles into the car and tries to start the engine, but just like horror movies always seem to do at the worst possible time, the car won't start. That's when the demon smashes through the car window with brute force and reaches in to attack her. Mia barely manages to scramble out of the car, and right in front of her, she spots a narrow gap in the ground. She dives straight into it. That passage leads her back into one of the rooms in the cabin. Once inside, she tries to hide. That's when she notices a chainsaw sitting nearby. She figures it might be her only real shot at survival. She tries to start it up, but there's no gas in it. For a second, it looks like even her last shot at survival just slipped away. Then her eyes catch a bottle of gasoline sitting nearby. She quickly fills up the chainsaw. But right at that moment, the demon bursts into the room. And now, the final showdown begins. The demon swings at her again and again with its massive weapon. Mia barely dodges every hit, eventually breaking straight through the cabin wall and getting outside. She's still holding that running chainsaw. Once outside, she dives under an overturned car to hide. The demon comes hunting for her and finds her there. And the second it gets close enough, Mia swings the chainsaw and slices straight through one of its legs. But pain isn't slowing this thing down at all. Enraged, it flips the entire car over. The full weight of it comes crashing down right onto Mia's arm. She fights with everything she has to pull free, but her arm is completely pinned, and the demon's already closing in on her again. Now Mia's left with only two options: stay trapped and die right there, or lose her arm and survive. She pulls with every ounce of strength she has left, and finally, her arm comes free from under the car, but it's completely crushed in the process. This moment changes everything about who Mia is as a character. At the start of this movie, she was a broken girl drowning in addiction, and now here she is, willing to sacrifice her own arm just to stay alive. Covered in blood, Mia picks the chainsaw back up. The demon charges at her one final time with everything it's got, and right at that moment, Mia swings the chainsaw with everything she has left. Within seconds, the demon is sliced clean in half. Its agonized scream echoes through the entire forest. Right after that, the ground splits open again, and the demon gets pulled back down into the same darkness it crawled out of. The second that happens, the blood raining from the sky stops completely, and the meaning behind that was unmistakable. The final demonic entity this entire ritual had been building toward was finally destroyed for good. For a while, Mia just sits there. One of her arms is completely crushed. Then her eyes drift toward that locket lying on the ground, the one David gave her. She picks it up and puts it around her neck. That locket isn't just a keepsake anymore. It's become a symbol of her brother's love, his sacrifice, and the entire battle that's the only reason she's still alive. Slowly, the night starts fading. The first rays of sunlight break through the forest, and at that exact moment, the demonic book closes itself, all on its own. This ending carries a lot of weight symbolically. The darkness might be gone for now, but the book is still there, which means this evil was never truly destroyed. It's just waiting again, patiently, for the next curious person to ignore every warning written on it and open it back up. And that's really the biggest message this movie's trying to leave us with. As terrifying as that demonic force was throughout this whole story, human curiosity ended up being just as dangerous, if not more. If Eric had just respected those warnings written in plain sight, none of this tragedy would have ever started in the first place. And then there's Mia's journey, which is honestly one of the most compelling parts of this whole film. She starts out as a girl drowning in addiction and grief, and by the end, she's the one who faces down her worst fear and single-handedly puts an end to this entire nightmare. And David's sacrifice says everything about what real love actually looks like. Sometimes it means making the hardest, most painful choice imaginable to save the person you care about most. So that's the complete story of Evil Dead 2013, along with its ending fully broken down. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon, because we've got plenty more deep dives into horror movies coming your way. See you in the next one. Until then, take care, bye.